Okay. All right, everybody. We should be, let's lower that. Just make sure we get our, let's see, there it is. All right, everybody. Good, we're live. All right, welcome everybody. We have a very quick, unplanned live show for you tonight. We're going to keep it to about a half hour, but we have a really big announcement that we wanted to make. And, Bud, can you move? Oh, you already did. Good, we're good. The logo's going to fade. There it is. We got our teas. We have a big announcement to share with you, and we're going to talk to my friends Adam and Faith here. They agreed to sit down for a couple minutes. They got a long day tomorrow, so we can't stay too long, but we're going to talk about cows for a little bit. Because as some of you may have guessed what our big announcement is, if you've been following the show long enough, you know we have been shopping around for a cow. We've been looking at cows. We've been thinking about getting cows. We've been doing field trips to dairy farms and to meat cow farms. What do you call those farms?
Beef cow.
Beef. There we go. All right. And so my wife finally made the decision. She picked a dairy cow that she wanted to get, and Adam and Faith just finished the long drive up from Virginia, delivering our brand new cow to the farm, and we already have guesses coming in. Somebody, William, guessed you got a mini Jersey, question mark. How would we answer that? What did we get, guys?
Probably a mid-mini. I forgot to measure
She's
her.
technically a mid-mini.
She's technically mid-mini means she's 48 inches down to 42.
So technically, no, we got a mid-mini, William, but good guess. So we got a...
the quality of milk is the same, so...
That's all that matters. We got a beautiful Jersey cow. Her name is Ladybug, and we picked Misty Morning Farm. We did a lot of research, and we were looking all over the country. These days with the internet, you can find all kinds of different farms. We liked a couple different things about Misty Morning Farm. They were actually suggested to us by Emily, who we interviewed not too long ago. Emily Long.
Okay,
she
wonderful.
was on the show.
Okay.
We interviewed her as a yeah, bud?
When the picture shows up of Ladybug, it covers Adam's eyes.
Well we better move that, right? How's that? There's Ladybug up in the corner. Is that better? How about down here? There we go. There's Ladybug. Is that better? All right. We got my 6-year-old running the sound tonight. So we got a picture of Ladybug. You can see her up there, and we'll share a little bit of video too with her.
That moves too.
Yeah, it does.
Emily's cow just had a baby here.
Yeah. She so we interviewed Emily, and she told us about you guys. She told us, you got to check them out if you're thinking about going the route of jerseys, heritage jerseys, smaller jerseys. And so Kendra did some investigating, and she liked what she saw.
God bless Emily.
So you guys specialize in family cows, right? Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your cows and why they're such a good fit for a homesteader like us.
You want to go ahead?
Well, they're small. They're not part of what we call the vector cow genetics, so we don't breed the American upbreeding genetics. They're old school lines, and we were very fortunate in the beginning to find a farm that was 5th generation grazing only organic and had been closed. And so basically these cows, Ladybug goes back to the Isle of Jersey.
Wow.
And so she's still just the nice size that they were before they started upbreeding. She's what we call our first generations. And so then we took them and we bred them to miniature, because there's a lot of things we do like about the miniature. We don't want to go too small, but we do like things about the miniature. They carry their weight better. They're a little chunkier. They're a little smaller for families. So basically we have a range of sizes. We have everything from miniature, which is about 42 inches, is the top side of miniature. We have a couple that fall below that, but we don't want too many because we really feel like they're getting to be pasture ornaments at that point pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so we most of our families actually use their milk. And so we want a nice, small, manageable size, but we don't want to go too small. And so our cows would be from about 42 inches to about 46.
Okay.
Ladybug's probably about 45 or 46 inches tall. I don't remember. on
She's
her.
on the taller
I'd have
side
to
of
measure.
our-
But
of
she's
our cow,
she's on the taller side of our stock.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so she'd be a mid-mini.
Another thing, one thing to remember too, when you pick the size of a cow, either miniature, small standard, or a miniature, is that the smaller the cow gets, the lower the udder gets to the ground. So the harder it is to get to.
So that's why they become more of a lawn ornament,
right.
Because
So
at some point they get where you can't really use them.
you can, or you have to put them up on a
Like a
platform. Yep, platform, or dig a hole to sit down
or
and
dig
milk
a
it.
pit. But I mean,
Wow.
But they're great.
The other thing is too that probably 90% of our or more percent of our families want to be primarily forage based. And we're not against a little bit of grain, a treat for coming in or whatever, but we don't want a grain for production, and we don't want to have to depend upon grain for their weight gain.
Right.
We value the fact that they come from generations of grazing, and they've got that ability built in, and that there's more to that story. In order to be a good grazer, they have to be raised on real milk, and raised on real milk long enough, and raised on enough real milk. So there's three things that come into play there, besides being from generations of grazing. All comes into play for them to be a good grazer. But basically, if you are grazing primarily or forage based, and then you cut the size of the cow, and then you only milk once a day, which is what 98% of our families will only milk once a day.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So when you put those three things together, each of those things cut your production.
Yeah.
So now that's why we like the Jersey, because they are bred for production over many, many years. Even our heritage Jerseys have been selectively bred for production. Not like the American gene pool has been and what we call the factory cows, the industrialized model, but they still have been bred for production. And so that's why we really like the Jersey as we go smaller, because you get that cream and you get that consistent production, and they don't naturally dry up about 9 months. They'll lactate for years if you keep milking them. But if you put
wonderful.
all of those factors together, pretty soon, if you go too small, you're not maybe going to be having the milk that you want for your family, and to make cheese, and to maybe feed the chickens and a pig or two with some buttermilk when you have it.
And the other thing that's unique about these little Jerseys is the fact that if you look at the average factory cow, lives three lactations at the max?
1.5 to 3.
1.5 to 3 lactations.
It's very sad.
And that's 4 years old or so.
Yeah.
And they're done. But when we got our first breeding stock, the oldest cow on that farm was 17 years old and had her last calf.
Wow.
So
that's unheard of in
Yeah.
a typical farm.
This is important, because I was thinking for a family cow, it's much different than a production line where a farmer who's producing can look at a 3-year-old animal and say, well, I've got my money out of it, and then she goes to the auction.
to McDonald's.
Right? And auction, McDonald's.
Yeah.
But a family cow, you're not going to want to do that, but it also doesn't make sense to have a cow that's going to be on your farm for 10 years that's not producing anymore.
That's right.
So to get years and years out of your family cow.
You can easily get 10, 12
I love
more years.
that. I didn't know. So
care.
Kendra's done a lot of the research. I haven't done. This is her. She's been looking for the cow. This is mostly her thing. I'm just helping. I'm the farmer husband helping.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. But so that's great. I mean, just knowing that this family cow can last and last and last.
And we learned it the hard way. And that's one thing we're excited about, being able to teach people about how to take care of a cow, because the first cow that we got, we went just to a regular dairy, and to try to pull one out of a confinement situation.
Right.
Of course, next thing we knew, we had mastitis at 3/4, and next thing we knew, we had 2/4.
Oh, man.
And you just couldn't. They're not bred for grass based because they feed them in confinement situations.
Yeah.
So
It's totally different.
Yeah.
Well, we looked to you guys for one because of that. It was a perfect family cow that had come from long lines of grass fed, which if you want to grass feed, that's it. You got to find a good source. But we also liked that you had already done all the testing for the diseases, and we already had questions in the chat box. Is she A2A2? Your cows are A2A2. So let's talk about both of those. First, let's talk about what diseases are out there that someone looking for a family cow has to worry about. How have you got those out of your cow? Is it a cow herd? Is that the word herd?
It's a herd, and not a flock. It's a
all
herd.
right, good.
The chickens
the
are
sheep
flock.
people and the chicken people,
Yep.
yeah, they don't like that.
It's a herd, yeah.
So let's talk about the diseases first. What's out
Go
there
ahead.
and how do you eradicate them from your herd?
It's a big subject. TB and brucellosis are fairly easy in our region to get away from. And so that was not an issue. We're BVD free. We're free of all the known major diseases. It has been a huge learning curve. When we first came in, there was a lot we didn't know, and so we've kind of we've learned as we've gone. We've been farming for 6 years.
So, as 70 to 80% of all confinement cows have some kind of disease they carry, either BVD, which is bovine viral
shocked.
diarrhea, or BLV, which is the bovine leukemia virus, or Johne's.
And Johne's. And actually, when we first started looking for stock, we went from farm to farm. And the first thing we decided to check for was Johne's. And we decided if they have Johne's, we're not going any further. And we were, from the beginning, going to grazing type, organic type farms. And we finally, out of searching many, many, many farms, we found 2.
Wow.
And they were neither in our state. And it got so bad because some people heard about us and they went to sell us cows. It got so bad that we finally told them, you test your herd and prove to us that you don't have Johne's, and then maybe we'll talk.
Oh, my.
And I can tell you a story that a family who had come to milking school, so the diseases were on their radar. They bought a couple cows from us, and it was 2 young girls, and they started a herd share, and they decided that they wanted to increase the size of their cow because they had land. Land wasn't an issue. They had like 60 acres. And so there was a farm in their area that was selling Guernseys, and this farm exported semen, was known to be a wonderful, stellar herd, just top quality breeding stock, beautiful herd, very nice family. So they asked this family if he had Johne's, and he said no, he does not have Johne's. Up until I heard this story, I really thought that the farmers were not telling me the truth, but now I've changed my mind. I think that they're so used to calling when things don't go right, when the animal's no longer producing and they don't test, and they think a little differently than we do because they've been farming forever, and so when the animal's sick, you just ship it.
Right.
Don't ask any questions. Well, so he said to them, no, we don't have Johne's in our herd. People had already tried. He was retiring, and so he was dispersing the herd. People had already traveled to come to the sale. He decides to test his herd, and the results came back like the day or so before the sale. Half of his herd had Johne's.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, there's no cure for Johne's. Pasteurization doesn't kill it. It is linked with Crohn's disease in people. Ooh. And I believe if the research were done, it would probably be linked to other IBS microbiome issues. I don't know. That's a faith opinion thing. Okay.
And the fact that most of our people we're getting a cow because we want real milk.
Yeah.
That's raw milk.
Yeah.
And so therefore we need, disease was just not an option for us.
So you have to understand.
Even the cost was high.
With Johne's, it does not test positive until it manifests. So even though only half of his herd tested positive, probably the whole herd was positive because the younger cows were not testing. So I'm guessing that anybody under 2, they say you don't even test them if they're under 2. So I'm guessing that anybody under 2 did not test positive, but that doesn't mean they weren't incubating it, so to speak.
Right.
That it just hadn't manifested yet. So the whole disease thing it's a tough. I would like to give people a simple answer, and there's not a simple answer. It has been quite a process.
Yeah.
Learning and getting there. And so, but the things you want to know is TB, brucellosis, BVD. These are things you want to check for. BLV, bovine leukosis virus, and Johne's. And of course, Johne's can't be tested on young cattle. So there's just a lot more we could say there.
Right. You guys have one of the beautiful things for us when we were shopping, going back and forth looking for different options. You can find cheap cows. You can find them on Craigslist. We've told this story a lot. We once were offered a free cow. Somebody was going to give us a Jersey because they liked our farm. We were looking for a cow. But it wasn't the right time for us. But we would go to people and ask them about the diseases, and they'd say, well, you can test, which costs money and time and effort.
Tell us about it.
Right?
Yeah.
So one of the beautiful things is when we found you guys, it was like, well, we could run around to all these other farms. We could spend money on each farm doing how many different tests. We could wait and time and all these other things. Or we could just get a cow from you guys where you've already done the work, you've tested for all this. And that was one of the biggest selling points for us when choosing was we already know they've already checked for these diseases. We don't have to worry about this. We want real milk. We want healthy milk. We don't want to worry about the milk we're giving to our family. Speaking of which, we also got to the A2A2 side of things. Tell us a little bit about what's the deal behind A2A2 milk. Why would that be interest to someone looking for a family cow?
Go ahead. You did A2A2
You want to
girl.
take it? Well,
I trained the cows to show people how to milk them.
when we first started,
And he's good at that.
we did not know about about the mutation A1. And we found out through Acres USA, read an article, and that perked our ears up. And then we started to read about it and check into it. We read Devil in the Milk. And there's actually an article, which is a wonderful summary of the book Devil in the Milk on our website. That people can
Which is
read.
Misty Morning Farm.
Yeah.
VA.com.
Misty Morning Farm VA.com, and we'll put links, and at the end we'll come around to where they can find all this. From
Yeah, and it's just a wonderful summary of the mutation part of that book. I don't talk about the political part of the book, but basically A1 is a mutation. They discovered it in the 70s. It was kind of swept under the carpet. Nobody wanted to deal with it. In the last 10 years, it's really starting to come out. Consumers are starting to find out about it, and they're starting to ask about it. A1 is a mutation that it's a mutation in the beta-casein protein. And so I think it's chain, if you go read my article, you'll be able to confirm this, but I think it's chain number 69 in the amino acid chain is a histidine instead of a proline. What happens is in the digestive process, it breaks off and it sort of forms like a waste product. So the body now has to decide what to do with it. Basically, it doesn't digest as well. Now, what we don't know is, does it affect everybody, but some people more? Does it affect everyone, but it's an accumulative thing? There's a lot we don't know about it, but we do know that the creme de la creme is A2, and that if you don't want any questions asked, you buy A2 right up front, or you breed for it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we could talk about that, and basically we finally just decided we had to breed for it because we couldn't find it.
It's smart, and I think from my point of view, I wasn't as concerned. When Kendra was looking, she asked me, do you care? And I was like, honestly, I don't. Personally, I was like, no, I don't really care. But I handle everything on this farm as a businessman. When I'm in farmer mode, I'm in businessman mode. And when I think of my client, my market, who is coming to my farm, it's people buying organic pork. It's people who they're not as concerned with price. They're much more concerned with quality, safety, the products, flavors, and the products being free from worry. I know, even if I personally have drank milk that I never checked my whole life, A1, I don't, whatever, I know as a businessman, my clients will be asking for A2A2. If I'm going to sell milk, which we're fortunate here in Connecticut, you can do a milk share program.
Milk share, okay.
They've passed that, and there's paperwork you can get for free on the state website now to set up milk share programs. Okay. So if I want to run with a milk share program, well, I can ask a higher dollar because where else are they going to get A2A2?
Yeah.
The other thing I thought of is if we're going to sell stock, if we're going to breed this cow and have heifers for sale, I can say, well, this one's A2A2 line. So even for someone who wasn't as concerned, now my wife, she was like, I'd like to have A2A2 because if there is a health issue, I want to cover that too. So there's that side. But even if you're thinking about this and you're like, well, I don't know as a business person, maybe that would be another decision. That's one of the reasons I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Good.
Just speaking from that perspective, I just have to share this really quick story. And I do have to tell you that A1 gives me restless leg syndrome.
Oh.
It is only A1. It is 100% linked to A1. I have experimented back and forth. And that's not even mentioned in the book. So there's still a lot that we don't know about it. Although restless leg, I do believe, is a neurological issue. And neurological issues are mentioned. Autism, heart issues, several things. But anyway, a little story on that. We sold a cow to a gal who buys pretty much all of her forage. She's in a HOA in Texas, and the grazing is not good. And she was paying $25 a gallon for her raw milk, her raw A2 milk, driving something like 3 hours to get it. only getting 3 gallons a week, which you can do the numbers there. That's $300 a month in milk. She bought a miniature from us, and she is one of our few people milking twice a day. Now, second lactation, she's not going to. But first lactation, being a heifer and being a smaller lactation, she decided to milk twice a day. She has the milk she needs for her family, and she, does a little herd share with, I think she told me 5 or 6 families. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they're getting 1 gallon or 2. But basically, she's paid for her cow by now.
That's awesome.
And she paid dearly for the cow.
Right.
I mean, they're not cheap. No. There aren't very many of them. We she bought one of the smallest that we had, and the little girl has turned out to be a great producer. And it's just such a fun story because it's her. Not only is her cow paid for, her family is fed. Now she no longer has that bill. Yep. The animal's care is paid for through the herd share, and she has a little mad money left over.
That's fantastic.
So.
Yep, that's fantastic. And I saw people even in the chat box were mentioning that they love your product, but some people were saying, "Oh, I can't do it right now. I can't swing it." Well, that's a great way to attack that issue. So your product is a premium product. You guys have spent the time, found the very rare stock that doesn't have the disease, that goes back to the island of Jersey. It's a wonderful product. It is a higher priced product. But then do the smart thing. Start a herd share. Pay in a year or less, maybe, if you can drum up the customers. If our girl's out there giving a gallon a day, one of the things we're going to be able to do is we're going to feed our pigs. I pay a fortune in grain prices.
Pigs love that. So
I buy organic. That's it. I buy organic grain. I'm going to cut my grain bill down. Yes. I'm going to see if I can start a herd share program. So even though...
You need another cow.
All right. Good salesman.
Although we do
that's how many pigs you had.
We do say keep it fun.
Yeah.
So
and that's one other thing we always said about milking. I grew up on the farm, and milking twice a day was a chore, and we also say once a day is a pleasure. So
that's a great point. And when you said that 98% of your 98% of your customers are once a day milkers, you got that back up, buddy? We got a camera down there. Mm-hmm. Our once a day milkers, I was happy about that too, because I know for our lifestyle, once a day milking is going to work best.
Yeah.
We got a couple more minutes here, guys. I want to make sure we get a couple questions in. So if you have any questions, be sure to tag @Homesteady so we can get to your questions. I want to make sure, let's see. I'm going to go and look through questions. If someone is looking for a cow, and they're like they're on the fence, who should be looking to what the cow you provide? Who is it right for? What's the family that's right for?
Every family.
Or
it's especially somebody, especially on a smaller cow. People who have less pasture, limited amount of grazing.
Which is definitely us.
The smaller cow is going to eat less. There's no doubt.
Eat less and leave less.
In fact, there's people who have done the numbers that you can literally pay for that cow and the difference in food.
Wow,
in a fairly short time, as a major investment goes, which, buying a cow is a major investment for a family.
And the one thing I guess the people, I said everybody because, we all are homesteading, we're trying to provide our own food.
Right.
We always said, once you've got your chickens, you got your pigs, you got your geese, your eggs, your heritage tomatoes, but the cow brings so much to the homestead. It kind of completes the homestead because now the cow will give you manure for your garden to grow your tomatoes. It'll also give you food for the chicken. Chickens love it. Just have it. You've got a half gallon of milk left over. Set it outside in the sun for 48 hours. It clabbers and the chickens will go crazy. The pigs love it. The kids drink it, and then you got cheese, butter, milk, ice cream, and all the things that the cow brings to the homestead. So it's a hard question I don't know of anybody who doesn't need one.
We think one day we're going to sell one into Manhattan.
We took one last year.
This rooftop farm.
Yeah. Well, we took one last year to Jersey City, New Jersey. So.
We got a question. Travis wants to know how would they do in hot weather like Florida?
Great. They're very adaptable, and the thing about any kind of an animal like that, if you live in a hotter climate, provide shade if you can, like trees. some kind of a lean-to shelter type of thing. Because if you drive through Florida, you'll see a lot of cattle. If we drove through Texas, you see a lot of cattle, and they will survive. And they do well in the wintertime too. We get snow sometimes. We can get it anywhere in our area from 2 inches of snow to 2 feet of snow. And the thing to do is just to make sure that they have, in the severe weather, they have shelter to get inside.
Yeah,
so they do great.
And when we were talking outside before, Adam was mentioning we were going to put her right in the barn, and Adam said, "Well, you don't really need to unless it's bitter cold."
Yeah, one of my philosophies is that every poo pile that the cow leaves outside is one you don't have to carry out.
I love that.
Yes.
Less work.
Yeah.
Another good question. Aldi Farm, Virginia. From Virginia, they ask, when is best time to buy a cow?
Whenever you can find what you're looking for at the right price.
Do they mean what age?
I'm not sure.
I'm thinking they mean what age.
Depends the time of year. But
correct or specify a little bit more in that question. Do you mean time of year, age of cow, your situation? We'd like to answer that for you. Clarify the question a little bit more. We'll get back to that. At what age? Another question from Blue Boy. At what age is a heifer should be expected to breed?
It depends on the minis. We like to wait about 14 months. You can do it a little bit earlier, but never before 12 months.
Okay.
Typically, we're breeding 14 to 16
14 to 16 months.
And if they're really small, we can wait a little longer than that.
Better safe than sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Aldi Farm, Virginia clarified their question. When is the best time to buy a cow? Time of year.
It really doesn't. I don't know if this matters. It depends on your situation, and we'll take. We would take that in consideration. If you're going to buy a cow that's like a baby calf or a small heifer or something like that, in the wintertime, you just want to make sure you have shelter. So anytime that you can find one at the price you want, it's a cow that you want, go for it. Because otherwise, like for us, once normally when we put a cow up for sale, it's just usually gone in a couple of weeks or a month after we put them up on the for sale page.
Well, I like what you said. When you find the right one you're looking for, and when you can afford it. And I know people have mentioned in the chat box, they're not in a position now where maybe they could buy a cow like the one we just got. I just have learned in our years of homesteading, you start with quality, because from that quality you're going to breed your future. Yeah. If it's a good quality goat, if it's a good quality, because I've bought when we were buying goats, we had tons and tons of goats, and I bought Craigslist bargain goats that were just horrible, and you don't even want to breed them, because you're just going to get more bad genetics.
Yes.
So I've learned over these years, even if it means waiting a year, you can in a year or two you can put aside and save. And if you really want to do this, waiting 2 years isn't going to make that go away.
It isn't. Yeah, and if you know that you want, and if you know we want one in 2 years, also the thing to do now is go ahead and work on your pastures.
Love that. Wish we started 2 years ago on our pastures.
Overseed them with make sure you got some clovers in there, Timothy, orchard grass, whatever's in your area, and really build up your pastures. Even if you have to go buy some, run some chickens out there. Run some chickens through that field where you're going to put your cow in a year from now.
We unfortunately just worked on our pastures this year. Now we have a cow, and the pastures aren't ready for her. So that's great advice, guys. If you've already looked into Misty Morning, I see some people have said they've checked you guys out, but it's just not in the cards right now. Start on the pasture now, and every month just put a little bit aside, because you're better off getting good quality that will last you literally generations, because those cows will have their cows and we'll have their cows, and this could just live on.
That's right. We once bought a $600 cow for Craigslist. It was the most expensive cow we ever bought.
Right? Yeah.
It really was.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
We had same thing, cheap goats on Craigslist that wound up losing money hand over fist.
Because when she got mastitis in the second quarter, and we called the vet on a rainy morning, an icy morning, and I said, "What's the chances?" He said, "You probably have a 2-quarter cow," and I said, "It's not,
Yep.
So,
well, guys, you got a long day tomorrow. Where are you headed to? Where can our viewers, if anybody's in the area, where they can?
Well, we're going to Burlington, Vermont for the Mother's News Fair.
Yeah,
and if you haven't never been to a Mother's News Fair, you need to come to one.
I wish we were going. That sounds fun.
But it's kind of, if you've seen the magazine, it's kind of like you open the magazine comes alive.
Yeah.
Every article that's written in there, it's demonstrated at the fair.
What do you do at the Mother Earth News Fair? What are you doing this year?
We do a program. We take in a couple cows, show the cows. And then we also do a program called The Return of the Family Milk Cow, and just give basic information. And we always tell people our goal is that if you've been thinking about it, come to one of these, and then we'll try to push you over the edge.
And we have a new one that we've done at about the last 4 fairs called DIY Homestead. DIY. We changed the title of this fair. It's DIY Healthcare.
Awesome.
So do-it-yourself healthcare, and it's kind of one of my passions too.
Love that.
So
Great.
And then also,
if you get to come,
we also realized that we grew up on farms, so we have the farming background, so we understand. We're not afraid of cattle. But if you've never had a large animal like this, and a ruminant, and you really want to do it, and if you think 2 years from now you're going to do one, the great thing would be to either get our milking school DVDs or come to a milking school on the farm and learn how to take care of a ruminant, because it's different than a chicken or a goat or horse or anything like that.
So we have their milking school DVDs right here. We're going to be diving into these over this weekend and next week. You guys have a website. People can learn more about you. What's your website?
Misty Morning Farm, VA.com.
Okay,
so don't forget the VA. So.
Check that out. There's a couple videos on YouTube that they can see. And if they want to contact you directly, if they have questions, if they want to start the 2-year plan, work on the pastures now, and wind up with a cow in a couple of years, how do they get a hold of you? Where do they reach you guys?
Through our website. Just email us, and we'll try to do our best. If we're half the time we're on the road anymore, it seems like it, but we'll try to answer your question the best we can. And I also recommend, if you are going to get a cow in the next year or two, get some kind of information, a book by Joel Salatin or somebody about rotational grazing. Yeah. And because you can double your pasture, your grazing on a small acreage if you do rotational grazing.
That's what we're going to be doing for sure. One of the last questions, we're going to close up here, but one of the last questions they asked, PA Permaculture and Exotics said, is it more cost effective on a homestead buying a cow or several goats for milk? And I just want to close that one up because PA, we did the goat thing. And we spent years and years toiling with goats just to get some milk. And it never ever worked out. The milk was bad tasting. The milk was low quantity. And we ran around in circles. And just finally we came to the decision that if you just want a pet, an easy pet, or not a difficult pet, but if you just want a little pet, I call it a pet with benefits, where you can get a little milk and, you can tell your friends you made soap one time, sure.
You still have to go to the store and get cream.
Exactly.
That's funny because we started with a goat too.
Yeah.
But I always tell people, now if you want less than, a gallon and a half or 2 gallons of milk a day, of milking once a day, then you have to have a goat.
Yep.
But it's true. In most goats, probably that I've heard of, you have to feed quite a bit of grain to get that hard-earned milk.
And at the end of the day, you don't have the cream. You can't make the cheese. You can't all the fun stuff of a homestead dairy. Yeah. I'm looking so forward to this winter because she's going to be Ladybug is pregnant. She's due in November, right?
I believe in October, November.
And
she's bred to a little miniature bull that we have.
Love that.
Little King Kong.
And the last baby was super beautiful, so this one we're hoping the same. But I'm just looking forward to this winter. We're going to have, during the winter, we don't have our meat chickens, we don't have our pigs, so a lot of the work on this farm and this homestead goes away. Okay. And I said to Kay the other day, as we were getting ready for this, I said, this winter, we're going to spend so much time inside. Normally we're inside maybe reading, we're kind of bored because we don't have much to do. This whole winter is going to be spent making cheese, making ice cream, making yogurt, just trying all these amazing dairy, home dairy items. So thanks, guys, for helping to get us here, push us over the edge.
And also, another winter project for this winter is building a cheese press.
Yeah.
So you're ready when
I saw some pictures on the phone. I got to get copies of those.
Okay. I do want to interject something about the question about time of year for shipping. We have found that if we ship in the winter, we do have to be more proactive about supporting the immune system. When you stress a cow, it lowers the immune system, and there's a period of time in there when they're more susceptible.
Got it.
And so I can't go into all of that, but I do want to at least mention it and put it on people's radars.
Yep. And, guys, check out their website. If you got questions, when we were searching, we fired off some questions and we got emails back right away. So thanks, guys, so much. It's a late night. You got a long day ahead of you. If you're it's in Vermont?
Yeah, Burlington.
Burlington. Yep. I wish we were going. If we didn't have a kid who was so bad in the car seat, we might go. But he screamed the whole way.
Well, my son was going to come too, and that's why he didn't come.
So check out the Mother Earth News Fair. look for Misty Morning and the programs that they're doing. But if you can't make it, we know a lot of you guys are all over the world here, and if you can't make that, just check out their website. And
and there's a couple more coming up this year. There's one in Kansas, I believe.
Ooh, there you go.
And Oregon is still coming up.
Are you guys going to all this?
The
I don't
fall
think so.
will be Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania,
Will you be
Seventh
in
Spring.
Pennsylvania?
Mm-hmm.
We're not sure yet because we
usually are, but it's interfering with the trip.
delivering.
Delivering
We
cows
still have-
to the Grand Canyon.
We still have
Whoa,
yeah.
you get
So,
some cool trips out of
We're
that.
do.
pretty
That's good.
excited.
So
we
we-
call those cowcations.
We
I
don't
like
like that.
that.
So
So
we're pretty
cowcations,
excited
so.
about that.
Well, next week we're doing a chickencation, but
So if anybody's looking for a cow, and if we still have anything available, they can contact, because we are going to make a trip to Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan, Kentucky, North Carolina, Utah,
wow,
this fall yet.
that's great.
And so therefore, I don't think we'll be able to do the Seven Springs one because
Okay.
of the fact that we'll probably be on the
Well,
road.
and you do have a heifer for sale right now, which will be
We
at
do,
Mother Earth News.
absolutely.
So
Her
if
name
you're
is
in the
Iris
area-
Ann, and she'll be a miniature.
All right, so go check out, look for
She's a-
Iris Ann.
Iris Ann.
Iris Ann.
Yep.
All right.
And she's about 8 months old
Great.
and not bred. So
All right.
Okay.
Well, guys, thank you so much for taking some time.
Well, thank you
for the
very
big
much.
day.
It's-
Thanks for bringing Ladybug to us. We're really excited to get
Yeah.
started with this. And everybody on YouTube, you'll be watching and watching us bumble along through our first year of cow dairy world. You watched us get to this point, and everyone was guessing the last couple of weeks, like, so did you get it? You get it? Well, we got it.
I
She's
got it.
here,
She's a beauty.
and we're gonna have tomorrow morning. We'll have some new videos up of us, getting used to this. So thanks, guys. We're gonna close out now, everyone. If you have any other questions, just check out the website for Misty Morning, and you can email your questions to them. And, of course, you can check us out at our site, thisishomesteady.com. Thanks for joining us, guys. We're going to shut things down.